Today we hear a lot about how this is the most selfless generation to ever exist, that we're the most apathetic, uncaring, self absorbed people that ever existed, but I don't think that's the truth at all. I don't think people have really become more or less self obsessed as time has gone on. But what I do believe is that we have a really hard time focusing on what actually matters to us personally. Through Instagram and Twitter, or whatever, TikTok, you would think that people are so obsessed, they're just trying to better themselves and make themselves seem above others. But in reality, when you hear these people talk, they're really just searching for external validation. They really focus on what other people are thinking about them and they ignore how they feel about themselves. And that's what I'm really want us to talk about today. Why it's important to focus on our own issues instead of spending our entire lives going external and searching for that validation or worrying about things that are completely out of our control. When we start focusing on external issues that have nothing to do with us and that are out of our control, we end up fighting with one another and bickering about things that neither side cares too much about. Because it is this focus on how people perceive things. That is where the issues lie. Let's take, for example, Trump is recently going through a lot of court investigations again, right? Now, objectively speaking, it is the same thing that people are looking at, right? There's a jury, there's a judge, there's a prosecutor, there's Trump, right? But that's what we perceive, right? But what do we choose to focus on? Now, if you're on the right, what you're going to focus on is, this is the left's 20th attempt to try to persecute Trump. And if you look at the left, you say, well, this is Trump's 20th attempt at trying to overturn justice, right? So it's not what objectively is happening that we argue about, it's what we focus on. And another personal example that's going on with me lately is when I look at all these protests that are happening on college campuses, right? Now there's hundreds of people at these protests, right? Now you can either focus on that and you can say all these college students care about is the Israel and Hamas war. But what I choose to focus on isn't those, a couple hundred students that are there, but the 80,000 students that aren't there, right? If you go through life just focusing on the acts of a few, you think that the world is going crazy. And you think that you're the only sane person, and that makes you crazy. Just thinking about that idea. At the end of the day, we are only all human, right? We only have such an ability to deal with other people's issues as well as our own. And when we focus on every issue the world has to offer, what ends up happening is that we're just so exhausted after thinking about these issues and trying to get through them that we completely ignore what's going on inside, right? Our own issues. I'm sure we've all thought about this, whether we want to admit it or not. We've all wondered if we've met the expectations that our parents had of us and if they view us as less than because we didn't meet some standard that they set. We all worry that our friends don't like us for who we are, but they like us for what we do instead. So we're constantly searching for that validation in our relationships. And something I know we all think about is this job I'm working at really the place I want to be? Or is this just some placeholder that's just taking my attention away from things that actually matter to me? Going back to this idea that we only have such a capacity to care for things, I view it as a bank robbery, right? We are in the media's car and we are going on a robbery, right? Now we're going to hit the bank, and what's going to happen is we're all going to go inside together, right? We're all going to worry about what's going on together and try and find the solution. And then when we're running out, the media, it leaves in the getaway car and we're stuck there with the bag wondering, oh wait, how can I get out of this? But really, the media has already moved on to the next issue, right? And we're just holding the bag of our own worries about this issue that's happening. And then we're just stuck there thinking about what we can do, how they can do this better. But really, the media's already moved on. Those people that got this fire started in the first place don't really care about what's going on now. They just want you to keep going. And then what happens with this is it just creates an everlasting cycle of this is what matters, and then that is what matters, and then this is what matters, and then that is what matters. And then at the end of the day, we are still our own person, and we're 50 years down the road and we're like, wow, I never dealt with any of my issues. I never found out if I even enjoyed these hobbies or not, right? Because all these issues, when they do get resolved, if and when they get resolved, we're still the same person today. as we were when we started solving these issues. Again, it is just so exhausting in our own personal lives to just want to keep finding these issues to talk about, but when we really should be dealing with our own issues that we have internally. When we focus on the issues that we're having, I feel like a lot of my time as a millennial has just been wasted away based off what other people's wanted me to do. Right? Like in elementary school, the focus used to be on just having fun and being who you were, and oh, maybe I like art, maybe I'm into like running. But now we're just getting all these kids to focus on just school and learning about the mitochondria for the 100th time. Okay, I get it, it's important. But so instead of us finding who we were as kids, right, that got pushed onto high school. And then at high school, all of us have so much anxiety about getting good grades and getting into the university we want to, that we're just students, right? That's all we do. That's our entire life is just, you're just a student. And if you can go out, that's phenomenal, but you're not going to really do the self-work and find out who you are. And then that gets pushed on to college now, right? But then in college, we spent so much time focusing on what other issues are that we're constantly getting pulled whatever way, in whatever direction, to like completely different extremes. And we never find out who we are, but we find out about who other people want us to be. And that's end up who we becoming. And then when we get to the workforce, people are saying, oh, you should have already found out who you are by now. And you start developing those habits your entire life. And it's incredibly hard to get rid of these habits about focusing on others' issues and not worrying about yourself. That when you get to adulthood, it's very hard to stop this cycle that's happened. But when it comes to focusing on external issues, I will say it is way more glamorous and fun than saying, oh, I have this issue that I've been dealing with that I'm finally able to get over. It's a lot more fun to truth bomb some fact that you feel like no one knows about some like political policy or some geopolitical and economic function that's going on in some other country. It's a lot more fun to say that than to turn inwards and say, wow, I'm really messed up right now. I'm not doing too well. I need to figure this out. Because, you feel like no one wants to hear that. But in my experience, every time I've ever been like vulnerable with other people and I've told them about issues that I'm focusing on, it's always been received with, yeah, man, I'm feeling that way too. Every once in a while when you say that, someone will be like, oh, wow, you're just like an idiot. You need to get over that. But then like 5 minutes later, they're like, yeah, man, like I feel exactly how you feel. Seems counterintuitive, but bringing up your issues and expressing your vulnerabilities will bring people closer to you and build trust with one another. So if we can just all promise ourselves that we're going to try and fix our own issues before we start trying to solve the world's issues, we can then fix the world. But that doesn't start until we're able to fix ourselves.